One of the things I'm most concerned about is that I don't think Marco Rubio, for example, has anything to worry about with his nomination passing through. I've mentioned Hegseth, Ratcliffe, Tulsi, and Bobby Kennedy all likely experiencing a significant amount of turbulence on the way to Senate confirmation if they get there. I don't think Marco Rubio is going to have any problem whatsoever sailing through because his network is essentially the exact network who has been trying to Trump-proof Donald Trump's presidency in the run-up to Donald Trump's victory. So I don't know what kind of back-channel conversations are happening between Trump and his donors, between Trump and Congress, that allowed such a pivotal position to freedom on the internet, as well as the entirety of U.S. foreign policy, to be run through Rubio. But that is something that I have quite a critical eye on.
Yeah, I mean, the role in when he was in the Senate on the collusion hoax and not stopping that earlier has always been pretty disturbing to me. That's been my one, big bet noir there. It really bothered me the entire time. We're talking to Mike Benz. He's at Mike Benz Cyber on X. I strongly encourage you to follow him if you're concerned about the deep state. If you love it, he's not your guy. Mike, the fight against censorship is the fight right now. If we can't speak, we can't wage a political battle because it's not a battle. It's a one-sided asymmetric war where they're shooting at us and we're completely disarmed. But we can't deny the fact, as you know, that the left and this blob of deep staters has been very, very effective over the last few years. Do you think we're starting to turn the corner on this, though? I don't want to say what company, but I've run into a few major companies at events and green rooms, and you know who they are. But I don't want to. They asked me to stay quiet about it, but they're even starting to say to me that a lot of the pressure campaigns they felt before, they're there, but they're dissipating in kind of intensity. And a lot of even the left-wing woke boards are starting to say, like, hey, man, this whole DEI crap, it's really not worth the time and energy anymore. Are you sensing this deep state censorship complex losing its power a little bit? I hope you say yes. I'll be devastated if you say no.
Well, you're absolutely right. Yes, in terms of short term, but there's a recoil on this rattlesnake that is going to be springing back with poisonous fangs over the next 6 to 12 months. And I'll tell you exactly how that's going to happen, because we've been here before. Donald Trump won the 2016 election because of freedom of speech on the internet. Trump did not get a single legacy newspaper endorsement in the entire country in 2016. Even David Brock, the political hatchet job black ops magician for the DNC, just a week before Trump was inaugurated in January 2017, did this big postmortem with 120 major tech execs and financiers and Soros types blaming the free and open internet for Donald Trump's election. And not only did Trump win the presidency, but Republicans won the House, Republicans won the Senate, Republicans got to put their Supreme Court picks in. So it was like you could not have a more favorable deck in terms of the political setup. But the fact is the entire censorship industry was constructed within the United States right under Trump's nose in that case because of shadow diplomacy abroad and back channeling with these organizations of an international nature. I can tell you exactly how it happened. Basically, as soon as Trump won the election in 2016, you had the out-of-power Hillary Clinton State Department and John Kerry State Department diplomatic corps take their special set of skills of working with European regulators and Brazilian regulators and officials and Australian and Central and Eastern Europe, and they got one by one all of these countries to pass these international to pass these laws that restricted the ability to post on social media if you were a populist. It started with this German law in 2017 called NetzDG, which required, for compliance with it, mandatory AI censorship technology that would scan and ban every keyword that was deemed by the German government to be problematic because it was a proxy for populism. They explicitly, the shadow diplomacy that was done between the out-of-power faction of the blob here in the U.S. with the German government is the reason that these were all implemented at Facebook and YouTube and Twitch and Discord and all of that, the entire internet in the first place. It was for continuity with global markets because they didn't want to lose access to Europe. That then tilted into what is now the UK Online Harms Bill in the US and the Anti-Misinformation Law in Brazil, and now the entire EU-wide Digital Services Act. That is, mark my words, they are not going away on this anytime soon. They are going to do a bifurcated strategy that involves using state laws, like what we just saw in Michigan with this new misinformation law that just came out of the Michigan State Senate, and like they've been doing in California and Illinois and New York, where they have these mandatory media literacy laws now that effectively prohibit access to or the ability to cite alternative news. You can only read blob media there now if you're in public school. So they're going to balkanize the U.S. at the state level in terms of the rules of the road for the internet, and then they are going to work with their international partners. The UK Labour Party figures extremely heavily in this. Keir Starmer is the test tube baby born in a lab, freak mutant of NATO. Anders Fogh Rasmussen, the former NATO head, made a special project to get Keir Starmer to replace Jeremy Corbyn there in the UK. And the UK Labour Party has taken that incredible power that they have and has metastasized a censorship capacity, partially funded by the US, I should note. For example, their scan and ban technology for the Metropolitan Police in London is funded by the U.S. Justice Department, so that they have a real-time heat map of every Tommy Robinson supporter and every Nigel Farage reporter and what they post online. That's literally funded by the U.S. Justice Department. They are going to work with the UK and Europe and South America and Central and Eastern Europe and Central Asia to make sure that every ally of Trump on the international stage is not allowed to rise to power, and they're going to try to make it unprofitable through these global revenue fines like the EU threatens to impose to bankrupt X unless they censor Trump supporters at home.
Mike, I got a hard 2 minutes left, but is the Trump administration, do you think that they know this, the fight against the DSA and these European censorship laws, and are they willing to go to the mat and say, listen, you do this to our companies, you got some heavy tariffs coming, and we're going to economic war over this. Do you think they know that? I know a lot of people in the transition team. Do they have a sense of what's going on? Are they willing to take it on?
They've heard this. They've been briefed on it. When they're told of it, they remember it. But the rubber is going to hit the road at the State Department, which is why I come back to Marco Rubio. The State Department, even though it only has $35 billion in funding every year, it's not one of the most heavily funded ones. It is the orchestra director of the entire panoply of U.S. soft power projection, and all this censorship work comes out of state. So Marco Rubio is going to need to be the one leading the crusade, the carrots and sticks thrown or offered at Europe to fight back the BSA. He is going to need to coordinate U.S. aid and be an enthusiastic cheerleader to make sure that U.S. aid is on board. U.S. Agency for Global Media also serves the State Department. Rubio is going to need an iron fist with them. Rubio is going to need an iron fist with all the NGOs and the university centers who are wrapped up in this. We are going to need strong-arm diplomacy in order to threaten to fundamentally renegotiate our posture with things like NATO and the EU and humanitarian assistance and treaties and trade agreements in order to fight this thing back, which is why we need a real soldier in there. And my concern is that Rubio comes from the camp who orchestrated all of this. Rubio is a board member of the International Republican Institute, which has been spearheading these international censorship laws. He's promoted the IRI Beacon Project. He won a Man of the Year award from the IRI, which is one of the worst censorship organizations, just this year. So his whole career has been funded and pushed by the same forces he now needs to take on. So there's going to be a knife in someone's back at the end of the day here. It's going to be the friends that have helped Marco Rubio along the way, or it's going to be the President of the United States. And time will tell on that.